So please give Louisa a big App Promotion Summit engagement zone. Welcome to the virtual stage.
Thank you, everyone. I can hear the applause from here. No, I'm just joking. It's great to be here talking about subscription apps. And before we start, I would just like to introduce myself, talk a little bit about Adjust for those of you who don't know. But in today's session, we are going to be exploring how you can optimize subscription apps towards the user journey to increase your revenue. So just to get started, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Luisa. I'm a product marketing manager at Adjust, and I'm really passionate about strategy, user behavior, and mobile marketing. My background is as a social scientist. I come from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, sunny land, to the gray yet beautiful Hamburg in Germany, and I work with Adjust. So talking about Adjust, we are a global app marketing analytics platform that was founded in 2012 and today has more than 500 employees all over the world. I think with everyone working from home, it's safe to say that we have people in every single continent, and officially we have more than 16 offices worldwide. Our mission and what we do is really help more than 40,000 apps integrated with our SDK to make marketing simpler, smarter, and more secure. So Adjust has 3 product pillars, and under them we have very many products that are just there to really achieve this mission. And in the measure pillar, we make attribution of installs. We have analytics platforms for you to make just marketing simpler. For the protect pillar, we are helping you combat in-app and ad fraud with all our products in this pillar. And with automate, we help you control all your campaigns and active sources through one panel with the control center and audience builder, if you want to segment the audience and really just make everything just smarter. And moving forward to our talk today, the reason why we're here and the reason why I'm here today is because we've been researching about subscriptions for the last year and a half, and we have some really interesting findings, not only about the market, but how this is going to move forward. So today, I just want to share a little bit about the state of the mobile market. How is this being shaped and which direction is it going in a global scale, not necessarily only about subscriptions. Then getting into some monetization strategies you can use and some marketers are using, the mix that exists right there. And finally getting into subscription apps, an intro to this world and how you should be optimizing towards the revenue. Okay. Let's get started with the mobile market overview. I don't think it's a secret to anyone how much time we spend online, and you can confirm these numbers just by looking how much an American spent online in the last year. So the average person in the US spent 4 hours in their mobile device every day. I know I spend around this time as well, especially in the weekends when we have a little bit extra time. And out of all this time we spend online, around 90% it's spent in apps. So this is a quite considerable amount of time, and especially when we look at how the revenue is growing towards all these years. When we think that apps barely existed 15 years ago, and when we tied this information together with the fact that in 2020, the revenue that it's going to be hit, it's $581 billion, that for me is just mind-blowing. And also, in just 3 years from now, this number is going to be almost $1 trillion. So really growing every year more and more. And it's not, it's just going to continue this. And we are going to see also how each one of the generations are dealing with apps, how much time they spend online. And the Generation Z right now is the largest generation globally. If we want to have some comparison numbers for the power of spending in the US, this generation alone has more than 150 billion direct spending power. That's honestly astonishing. And they spend 71% of their time online in mobile apps. This is a little less than the 88% that the average American spend, but when we take that this number is the time that the largest generation spend online globally, it's still very high. And as no secret, the ecosystem is quite big. We have more than 7 million apps available worldwide, with some of them being in the App Store and some of them being in the Play Store. And every month, you can see just in the footnote right there, more than 130,000 apps are added every day. So this ecosystem that is already that big is growing more and more. And when we take a deeper look into those apps, we see that the majority of them are free or freemium. So 92% of them in the Apple Store are free, and 96% of in the Play Store are as well. So the question that I'm asking myself, and you are probably too, although you already know that there are some different monetization strategies, is how do they make money? And there are several ways to do that. So it always starts with having valuable users for you. If you acquire valuable users, you can use this and make money in several different ways. And just to talk a little bit about each one of them, to explore, because you as a marketer can also combine different ones and just see whatever works best for your users and for your company. The premium is the monetization strategy that you block access unless someone pays for it. It's the one-time fee that you pay to download an app or something like it. The freemium is something that you can allow people to have the experience, but if they want better, let's say, weapons in a game, you have to pay a little extra for that. Subscription, as we're going to see in more details just next, is when you have to pay a recurrent fee to keep having access to the features that your app is going to be providing. Then we have in-app purchases. You can pay one-off fees to get one or the other item, not necessarily having to pay for the whole bundle. Upgrades, just as an example, so you stop seeing ads in the mobile app. And the last but not least, you can always sell the space on your app to other advertisers and you monetize on top of that. And now the point that we all wanted to talk today, subscription apps. It's across the board. Every single vertical is exploring with it. And now I'm just going to give you a little bit of time to just try to find your vertical in there and see what other apps are already exploring with subscriptions. And we can see that it's not only anymore in entertainment or games as it used to be a few years back. We have apps in business, social, travel, just having subscriptions if you want to have maybe better features or if you want to use the app at all. And let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture, how this is going to be for every single vertical. This is a screenshotable slide, so I'm going to let you have a time to screenshot this and find your vertical. But you can see that entertainment is still the vertical that has the majority of the apps for offering subscription inside. Tied in second place, we have health and games. And right after that, utilities, social, and the other verticals. But I'm sure also this scenario is going to change in the next years, and I'm very curious to see how this is going to look like. And this, I'm sorry, it's mind-blowing. Even though we have 7 million apps available both in App Store and Play Store, only less than 1% of all those apps are offering any kinds of subscription. This, in my opinion, is going to change. And if you don't want to take my voice to this, you can listen to New York Times. I remember quite well when I used to talk to my friends in the past and say, hey, I'm paying for this new service online. It's very nice. You should try it. They would frown their face and look at me and say, are you paying for something online? Why are you doing that? Because a few years ago, it was very common that if you were paying for something, you were seen as Kevin Rosen say, an easy mark. Someone really too lazy or unsophisticated to just figure it out what you could do to get that thing for free, for the worst of copyright, if you ask my opinion. But now this perception is changing across users. Subscriptions are seen as a status symbol. So if you don't have subscriptions, maybe now you're the outsider, rather than some years ago, it would be the opposite direction. And of course, this translates into a global phenomenon. Subscriptions app account for a quarter of all the revenue that mobile apps are creating this year. So 120 billion is the revenue of those apps, even if we're excluding the non-gaming ones. So if we have those on top, it would be even a larger portion of the pie. And also, I wanted to point this out. All those slides, sorry, they are screenshotable, so feel free to just always stop and take a screenshot. Right after that, you're gonna have all those stats that are gonna help you inside your company to talk about subscriptions. But what I wanted to talk in here is that the consumer intention of spending more money with subscription is also getting higher and higher. Just like we saw Kevin saying, this is becoming a status symbol. We see this number also impacting the revenue. So going back to the US, we see that in 2018, the consumers were spending $3.8 billion in subscription services, whereas in 2019, this number grew by 21%. And this phenomenon is going to replicate itself again in 2020, because if you look at the first half of 2020 versus the first half of 2019, the same period already surpassed by 24%. So expect even higher numbers for 2020. It's also very mind-blowing if you think about that all the revenue that is coming from mobile apps, subscriptions, they drive over 91% of consumer spend. So even though they are less than 1% of all apps available, they are still very little amount of number of apps offering subscriptions. Reports really show that these type of apps account for the majority of the consumer spend. So if they're spending money with something, it's probably with subscription. 91% is for the Apple Store. If we look at it's for the Play Store. If you look at Apple Store, for instance, it's 97%. And now you're probably asking, okay, but what are they spending money with? Am I up to the game? And it's exactly when our research comes into place. As I mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, I just conducted a research with more than 1,000 Americans, became representative of the nation, just trying to understand a little bit better and firsthand some behavior about subscription. And those are some of our findings. The first one, I don't think it's going to be a secret or a surprise for you, is that streaming apps are still the most frequently downloaded. So they are still being the ones that people are spending more money with. As you can see, they spend around $33 every month with streaming services. And after streaming services, you have gaming with 9% and news with 4% of all the downloads. If you want to take a look how this looks like into the age groups, then you have this chart. In the left side, you can see the percentage of age groups paying per streaming and on-demand services. On the right side, you can see how much they are spending. I told you this was going to be a screenshotable session. And before I jump into my next slide, I would like to check with James if we have a poll up that we could use right now, because I wanted to see if you know how much money the US consumer is spending for subscription apps in general monthly. So we know that for streaming services, this is $33. Now for subscription in general, I don't know if you already have a guess. If we don't have the poll in the air, but you can just think right now before I change the slide. I'll give you 3 seconds. Okay. They are spending $20 a month with subscription services. And they normally spend this amount of money with an average of 4 apps. So this is how much they are paying monthly. And honestly, those numbers just show to me how much subscriptions are gaining more and more traction within the mobile ecosystem. Again, if you want to take a look how this looks like into age group division, there you have it. The 25 to 34 years old is the segment that is spending more money with subscription, but you also have a considerable amount of money being spent in all the other age groups. Okay. Now, if you ask me, okay, who are those companies cashing in? Who are the people making money with subscription? If there's 120 billion being generated in this year, I will tell you, those are the 10 ones. Those are the top 10 subscriptions apps by revenue in 2019. As you can see, the first one is the majority of them are the entertainment ones, but you also have some lifestyle apps, like you have Tinder, Bumble, and you have some other ones also like LinkedIn and all of them. Sorry. Once again, taking a look at the bigger picture and how this is divided, not this time per number of apps, but per revenue, this is how it looks like. You see, entertainment has a lead, followed by games, health, lifestyle, social, and utilities, all of that. So this is just for you to understand how the picture is looking for subscription, and that I'm not crazy to say you should pay attention to this revenue, to this monetization strategy as well. And really, because we've seen that this works for not only entertainment, not only lifestyle, but for every vertical, really, I just wanted to give you some tips and tricks to how you can optimize towards revenue. But before we start, it's important to understand that subscription apps work a little bit different than what we are used to. And I'm going to give an example just so we see exactly how this is. Take a gym, for instance. This is how a gym profit. You pay a monthly fee every month, but you don't go every day. At the end of the month, you don't get some money back. I know I would like if I got some, but this is not the point. The point here is even inactive users of the gym are profitable for the company. This is how it works with subscription as well. Even inactive users can be profitable for you. And why is this good? Because then you as a company can project with a lot more precision what you're going to do, because you have recurrent and steady revenue streams that you can plan ahead to. And because of that, it's also arguable that it's good for the users that ads are not necessarily the main revenue stream anymore. This way, you can make a smoother user experience without interrupting so much, and it's also good for them because of that. And now that we understand how subscription apps work, those are 3 tips that really go hand in hand together, how you should be optimizing towards revenue. The first one, and then you can screenshot when the 3 ones appear. But the first one is, you really should know your users. That's no secret to anyone. By the time that you understand how your database looks like, who are your users, you can also define who are the most valuable ones. This way, understanding behavior patterns and preferences, you can just cluster the users, create cohorts that are going to make sense for your next actions. And this, honestly, has to do a lot with the second tip. It's important to have quantity and quality going hand in hand. The more you will invest in acquiring valuable users, the more you're going to increase your ROI sustainably. Because we're talking about subscriptions here. You were talking about users that are paying a recurrent amount of fee every single month. You need to have people, you have to have people in your app that know the value and see the value enough so they are paying for it. And my third tip would be for you to keep investing in the channels that are working well for you. Keep doubling down on what's working. By the time that you stop campaigns that are bringing users that are churning very, very fast or are not even paying for subscriptions, turn off these channels, get this budget, invest in the campaigns that are working really nicely to bring valuable users for you, and you're just going to increase everything in a very sustainable way. Okay, that sounds kind of almost too easy. You're probably thinking, I'm going to go back to my company. I am going to bring all those numbers, all those statistics, and I'm just going to implement subscriptions tomorrow. Yeah, you should probably almost do that. But first, it's important to understand that subscriptions are not so easy to track as we would assume they are. And as a marketer, I know, you know, that tracking is one of the most important parts of the job, because only like that, you can understand if it's working or if it's not. Or like, for instance, find your valuable users. Let's understand how complex this looks like for a subscription app with an example of, let's say, a dating app. Our friend Chris is interested in dating. He downloaded this app, installed, and he wanted to go full in this time. So he even paid a subscription to get premium likes, more features. And then he got a match. He's really looking forward to the date. He goes there, but it's such a flunk that he gets so mad and he uninstalled the app right on the act. He get back home and say, this is not worth my time. I'm gonna stop doing this. But a month later, he think about it again. I'm gonna give it another shot. He installs the app again, has a new match. This time is a different story. I'm happy for Chris. He not only goes on this date, he likes it so much that to avoid any miscommunication, any misunderstanding, he deletes the app right after going back to the date. He has a happily, I'm not gonna say married life, but he has a happy life with the date that he just met. This is how the app events timeline looks like. If we're looking to a subscription standpoint, it's important to consider in a few things. Let me highlight them for you. The first one is some subscription apps offer a free trial, right? So not necessarily the same moment that Chris is going to be subscribing to it, he's going to pay. Maybe there's 15 days delay in there. And also, because someone can have a lot of things in mind, the second payment happens after the uninstall. So this is a little confusing for you as a marketer to stitch those data points together and make sense out of this. A little bit later, you have payment issues. Maybe his credit card got stolen. He had to do another one, but then he put the payment again. And a little bit later, after he uninstalled the app, cancellation happens. So I was trying to explain to you, those timelines don't really have any explicit overlap. It's very difficult for you to make sense out of this data and understand who is a valuable users from a revenue standpoint, rather than who is a valuable user from an activity standpoint. And you want to ask me right now, okay, I understand, I see this is a problem and a serious one. How should I be bridging this gap between the timeline of app events and the timeline between subscription? The answer is by implementing an end-to-end subscription tracking. And the reason why is because this is going to allow you to build accurate LTV models because you're making sense out of the data. You can calculate the revenue from the recurrent subscription by understanding when they happen and exactly all the subscription events. And as a result, you can assess the health of your users and the campaigns, so you can leverage all the data and you really build engagement segments to do retargeting, to do all the actions that are going to follow the data analysis. As a result, you don't have discontinuous timelines anymore. You have this blue line tying them together, which are really the subscription events. So this allows you to have a holistic, clear overview of everything. And it's also much easier for you to optimize towards your goals and just invest in the user engagement. How is it going to look like when you put the two timelines together? You have the activation or the reactivation rather than just the subscription and the payment. You have when the first conversion happened and then all the other ones. You also can get a renewal whenever this happens, or any payment problems like the billing retry that you see a little bit further in the timeline. And then finally, when you have the cancellation, this is much clearer. And by having one data from the apps and having the subscription events, everything makes a lot more sense. And just to talk a little bit further about Adjust technology, because we, as I mentioned, we did all this research, and as a result, we implemented the subscription tracking service. We can track to the user level. So the way it looks like for you when you're the marketer analyzing all this data, you can see exactly when the user started anything, renewed a subscription, canceled, and that allows you to really just manage user engagement in a much easier way. As a result of all of that, you should be looking at three main things. The optimization of all your budget allocation, because you can easily and accurately calculate the LTV from your subscriptions. You are definitely going to be seeing an increase in loyalty and retention of your customers because you understand what are the users that work, and then you're going to be replicating this for engagement campaigns. And also, you're going to find new areas of opportunity because you don't have siloed data anymore. You have something that's tied in perfectly together and it makes sense, helps you understand. So just to finish it off, I wanted to thank you all and also just highlight how important subscriptions are becoming with the days passing. It's really something that everyone should be, if not considering to implement, at least stay attentive to this. And if it makes sense to you, as you've seen before, it works for so many verticals, you should be considering that. Thank you for that. And I'm gonna also leave my contact details in case you wanna get in touch, learn more about subscription in general. I'm happy to help have conversations about it. I'm a really chatter, so yeah, it would be great. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Louisa. That was great. Hopefully we can drop your contacts into the chat somewhere. Yeah. I just had a quick question, if you got time. Based on what you're saying at Adjust, we've been talking a bit about different verticals and how subscriptions moving into them. And yeah, obviously everyone knows Duolingo. And there's a few, as you said, the Netflix is the obvious big example, and maybe the dating. Are there any other sort of verticals or examples you're kind of excited about for this year or next year?
Yeah, definitely. I'm very excited how this is going to be looking like for health and finance. So, lifestyle is also a third vertical that has been experimenting, hence our example, for already a long time. But for health and finance, I think there are different options for the users that not necessarily require for you to lock him out of the experience, and you can just offer different services with a paid subscription. And I know, because I'm also a consumer, sometimes for me it's difficult to understand, okay, but do I need to make this commitment? Am I going to be paying for subscription every single month? And okay, that's something that you have in mind. But on the other hand, it's not a lifetime commitment you're making. So if companies just market this as, okay, this is the offers we're giving to you, and that's why, I think it's a very nice direction to follow.
Great. And you're working very sort of globally with lots of different clients. Is there any sort of markets where this is growing faster, the use of subs in apps, or consumers are more willing, or is it, pretty consistent? I know some of your data there was from the US.
Yeah, I would highlight the US as one of the markets that's pioneering subscriptions, and any other market that has convenience as a must. So we can even say that Europe is a next market that I would be looking to see more and more subscriptions coming to this, and following EMEA, I think LATAM. So, but individually, US, I think it's the big one to look at.
Got it. And you had some great data in there, as you say. For those who didn't manage to screenshot it, I guess yeah, we'll be having a video replay at some point. We'll go up on the site as well, so you have another chance there. But is that study, the subscription study you did with Adjust, published anywhere on the Adjust site, or?
Yeah, you can find our mostly all the data I presented today on our website. Just go in there, you type subscription, and you're going to find all the data you're looking for.
Great. So head over to the Adjust site, and in terms of what you're offering to clients with Adjust, obviously we sort of mainly know the ad analytics and the MMP sort of suite of tools. What is this sort of a subscription functionality, something new, or is it sort of a core part of that? It seems more it's like sort of in-app analytics, kind of what's happening in the app rather than just covering, say, acquisition.
Yeah, so Adjust offers end-to-end tracking to any attribution also. So we are helping marketers understand every single thing that happens from before the moment of the install, when the install happens, and throughout the life cycle of the user. But for subscription is a little bit different because of the example that I just gave. You have to have an intermediate timeline between what's happening in the app and what's happening in the payment side, so you can really understand what is the value of subscription. And this is not a common feature you have with most analytics. So by tying those two data together, you can understand which campaigns are bringing you the high valuable subscription users. And this is the difference that I was presenting in the end, a unique feature of Adjust.
Got it. And I suppose final question would be what sort of skills and capabilities and team members do apps need to build up to make the most of the subscription opportunity?
It's really no necessary size to start, to be honest. The tricky part here is if you have to have people responsible for analyzing this data and coming up with strategies after that. Right now, if you have a marketing team, a huge part of this is also just the feedback you get and how you're going to optimize towards it. So if you have one person, two people already taking care of the user acquisition, that's already enough for you to consider implementing also subscription and making sense of the data together.
Great. Okay, well, thanks, Louisa, for sharing that great presentation with all the great data points. I'm really interested to check out that survey as well. It looks really great. So yeah, thanks for joining us today, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll be looking forward to the next presentations today of the App Promotion Summit. Everything so far has been great. Thanks everyone for being here also and attending.